South Carolina and Clemson get set to do battle Saturday afternoon in Columbia. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game between the Gamecocks and the Tigers. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Cole Thompson. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. As always, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, guys. We are inching ever so close to that 30,000 subscriber mark, and we cannot do it without your love and support. Also, make sure you can check out our friends over at FanDuel, because as always, we are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, FanDuel.com/SECU, to join today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/SECU to get in on the action today. It was once known as Big Thursday. This game played on every single Thanksgiving Thursday up until the late 1960s. Now it's known as the Palmetto Bowl, one of the most underrated rivalries in all of college football, where there is no shortage of hatred on either side. It's South Carolina, it's Clemson. They get set to do battle Saturday afternoon in Columbia, and we are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game. Hello, everyone. As always, I'm Chris Phillips. Joining me, as he always does, my co-host, colleague, partner in crime, one of the best in the business, that being Mr. Cole the Bear Thompson. Bear, really excited to talk about this matchup with you. And this matchup, I think when you look at rivalry weekend, is really an indicator of how rivalry games mean so much and why they mean so much. Clemson obviously playing for improving their bowl status, whether it's 6 wins or 7 wins, and depending on where they go. South Carolina, there are no postseason hopes in play. But if you can end the year beating your arch rival, those bragging rights last 365 days, and that's all that matters, my friend. Gamecocks and Tigers squaring off, my man. It's going to be a fun one Saturday afternoon in the Palmetto State.
You see this? Brand new helmet. South Carolina people finally decided to come on in. The War Chicken family said, Cole, we welcome you. The Bear needs to know that we're well represented on SEC Unfiltered. There you are. You're right there. You have an opportunity to do something really special and end the year with another win in the Palmetto Bowl over a Clemson team that, to be fair, could very well have been reeling if a couple things went their way. Chris, I don't know if you know this. They were a minute 6 away from beating SMU. They had a bad 4th down call against them in the Duke game that cost them an opportunity. If they win both of those, they're coming in on a 7-game win streak. They actually still very much would have hopes to maybe make it to Atlanta, because they'd only have 2 losses to Georgia Tech and Syracuse in the conference title game. So a lot of things have started to slowly turn in favor of Clemson. They are dealing with a couple of injuries. This is a lot of pressure on the line for both sides, because you want to be able to go ahead and win this matchup. Both coaches, there's a lot on the line when it comes to bragging rights and being able to say, hey, look, my team is still in the right direction. We're able to beat out on Clemson, a team that we've been known as little brother against. For Dabo Swinney, kind of the same feel. Look, it wasn't the season that we envisioned, but damn it, we're at least going to be able to say we can kick the crap out of an SEC team. That's going to mean a lot to us. So I think this is going to be one of the more underappreciated matchups of the day. I think this is going to be one of the more underrated games of the regular season. And some weird stuff is going to go on. And by the way, don't kid yourself. It's Willie B. Pick a time, pick a place, pick a timeline. This will always be one of the most ravenous atmospheres in college football, because of those War Chicken faithful come on out in droves to watch as their team can get a win.
Yeah, no matter the time, Bear, no matter the place, it is going to be a packed-out house when South Carolina and Clemson do battle. This Saturday, of course, 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern time, local time kickoff there in Columbia, being aired on SEC Network, of course, being played, like you mentioned, at Williams-Brice Stadium. Our friends over at FanDuel have South Carolina listed as a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under is set at 46.5. Clemson leads the all-time series 73-44-4. And of course, the last meeting, Bear, came last year, where the Gamecocks won that game by a final score of 17-14. It was Lenoris Sellers with the heroics late in that one, going up to Memorial Stadium up there in the upstate and just snatching victory away from the Clemson Tigers in a massive win. Of course, you might recall, too, the drama with Clemson going to the college football playoff despite losing that game. What a wacky season 2024 was. Like I mentioned, Bear, there's far less on the line this go-around. South Carolina's season is a lost cause. They are not going to a bowl game. I mean, Clemson's sitting at 6-5. There's not much really for them to play for either. But once again, this is why we love rivalry weekend. Because when people say, throw out the record books. Yeah, sometimes that's a little bit of over-exaggeration, right? I mean, it's still, at the end of the day, the better team typically wins in football. In a game like this, genuinely throw out the record books because you never know what's going to happen. The emotions, the energy, the intensity, it plays such a factor in a game like this. But, Bear, that being said, I think when you look at this game, if South Carolina is going to win this football game, I kind of look back to last year and the way it played out. You could argue there is not a better football player on the field on Saturday than Lenoris Sellers.
Nope.
And I know it's been a rough season. It has been a very, very rough season for him, for this entire offense. But don't look now, Bear. The South Carolina offense starting to find themselves a little bit. Outside of that second half, obviously, in College Station where things went awry, he looked elite in that first half against A&M. I know it was Coastal Carolina, but still, you'll take whatever you can when it comes to positive momentum. He looked really, really good in that game. Threw for 274, ran for 82, essentially carried the offense. Yet again, heck, his brother, it was Sellers all across all the leaders because his brother, Jaden Sellers, had a big day when it came to receiving and scoring through the air. Bear, if South Carolina is going to beat Clemson, it's got to be Lenoris Sellers. It's got to be the Lenoris Sellers game. There's no secret here as to what to do. So on the defensive side for Clemson, that's what you key in on. But as we know, stopping him, even slowing him down, much easier said than done. So the key is simple as that, Bear. And hey, big game too. Let me throw this inside note for Mike Furry, who's trying to throw his name into the hat for the offensive coordinator spot. Offense puts up a good performance. Maybe Shane Beamer goes ahead and takes the interim tag off, makes him the full-time OC. Either way, though, you're going to beat Clemson. Lenoris Sellers has got a ball.
I think on the flip side, you need to see a good game plan from Cade Klubnik. Let's just be real. I mean, last season, the reason why Clemson lost in the Palmetto Bowl in the upstate is because they saw 16 run rampant against them. They couldn't tackle him. He got into the end zone. They got a pick. That's all she wrote. You now need to have the opportunity to take that moment, if your advantage with your Clemson, and kind of turn it on its access. You haven't had Bryant Wesco for most of the year because of injury. You saw a couple of injuries that dealt with Antonio Williams. He's not back in the saddle. TJ Moore has really stepped it up and been a very quality wide receiver, number one. I think that's going to be a big-time matchup. Can you win your one-on-one battles on the outside? Clayton White's defense, can you get pressure on Cade Klubnik? Can you be able to force him to kind of have to throw the ball at the feet of Gideon Davidson or at one of the other running backs on the backfield, whether that be Adam Randall or whether that be Keith Adams Jr., whoever that may be? You're going to have to find a way for them to be able to just hit reset on a play, I think is the best way to put it. And don't get me wrong, it's been an underwhelming year, I think, for South Carolina's defense, far from the expectations of what we envisioned after last season and how well they went into the transfer, brought in names. But there still is an opportunity for this South Carolina team to really put pressure on because they got pass rushers. And it's not just when you look at Dylan Stewart. I mean, they got multiple guys coming off of the edge, whether it be Demon Clowney, whether it be Murphy, whether it be Okoronkwo at the linebacker spot. There is an opportunity for them to make play after play after play and really be able to set the tone in this matchup in the trenches.
And Bear, one of the most important things when it comes to this game are the turnovers. Clayton White's defense, like you said, they haven't been great this season, haven't been maybe met the expectations, but they're still one of the best, I believe actually the best in the SEC when it comes to forcing turnovers. I mean, that's what they do under Clayton White. They force turnovers. They find ways to get the football off of people. Certainly that's going to go a long way in this football game, is getting the ball off. You mentioned Cade Klubnik last year. It was a critical interception late in that game that cost Clemson the opportunity to go down the field and score. Some other turnovers in that game as well. So whichever team can take care of the football better. I mean, obviously in every single football game, that is a determining factor. Who can run the football better too? I agree with you. Clemson's got to win through the air. That's where you get South Carolina. But who's able to find balance? Because neither one of them have been great when it comes to running the football. I know Randall for Clemson's up near almost 700 yards on the season, but that to me is going to be a big one in this game, is just who can find balance. Who can find balance, right? And I still think for South Carolina, just what can you find, period. Clemson's still got talent defensively. I mean, that's the one thing you got to give them credit they do have. So, who can find balance in the running game? football, we don't overcomplicate it at the end of the day. It's still who comes down to wins in the trenches more often than the other, who can push the other around. Can South Carolina, more importantly, I think, win in the trenches in this ball game? Because they've had trouble protecting Lenora Sellers. They've had trouble getting a push in the run game. Something's got to give for them up front.
Lenora Sellers has been sacked 37 times this year. So, I mean, what's another 7 if you really want to just be completely honest? Like, that's a joke, but it's the reality of the situation. On the flip side, you got to be able to put pressure on Kate Klubnik the same way. Brian Thomas Jr. has had a phenomenal year. He actually has had a better year when it comes to sacks than Dylan Stewart. He's kind of hitting his stride at the right time. Had a really good performance 2 weeks ago against Texas A&M in the first half. So can you do that? That's another thing I think that you're going to have to wonder in this game. What happens if you're Shane Beamer and you're up by 2 scores going into the third quarter? How do you make sure that that momentum stays the way it's supposed to be? And the play calling is still at a peak. Because one thing that we did notice when it came to the second half adjustments between Texas A&M and from South Carolina, Texas A&M kind of just went full sicko mode. We're going to go with the explosives. We're going to try for it on 4th down. We're going to put ourselves in a position where we can finish drives. And it felt like that, you were trying to play conservative if you were South Carolina a little bit with the play designs. In a game like this where you don't have a tomorrow, where a lot of these players will announce that they're going pro or going into the transfer portal afterwards on Sunday, you got to just kind of, I think, go for it on every single possession. Because the last thing that you want to do is ask yourself going into the fourth quarter, leading by a touchdown, well, let's punt. Let's just punt. What happens? What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is they run it back. Then they do an onside kick. They get the ball and then they take the lead. So you got to make sure you keep your foot on the gas if you are South Carolina's offense through all 4 quarters, especially when it comes to Lenora Sellers. And also, you've got to tell me if there is a relationship brewing, whether it be with Jaden Sellers, whether it be with Nick Harbor, whether it be with Mazio Bennett, Jordan Dingle, the tight end, force feed them. Until Clemson gives you a reason to take that number 1 option away, force feed them. Because the thing that we have knows with Lenora Sellers, when he gets in a rhythm with his number 1 receiver, it is very hard to slow on down.
Bear, you mentioned punting the football. Special teams has got to be talked about here as a big factor in this game. I mean, for South Carolina, the big plays that they're able to make in special teams, whether it be a big punt return for a touchdown. Vakari Swain has been probably the most electric player on this football team throughout the season, at least one of the most electric. Whether it be, again, that big punt return for a touchdown, kickoff return, a block punt, block field. I know Shane Beamer was really upset last week because they did allow a blocked punt against Coastal Carolina. I'm sure that's something major point of emphasis for them all week. But you think about the last few years, Bear, and especially the last 2 games that South Carolina has won in the series, which don't look now. They've won 2 of the last 3. This is a huge game, which I'll talk about more in a second, for just the turning of the tide in the rivalry. But, I mean, I think you'd be crazy to think special teams won't play a factor in this game. Because, again, the last 2 times they've won, it did. Heck, I mean, we talking about turnovers and the intangible stuff like that. You think about the last time Clemson came to Williams-Brice Stadium. It was a backwards pass that Clemson recovered and ran all the way back for a touchdown. Like, that was a difference maker in the game. So there's going to be some big plays like that. Who is on the right side of those plays is, I think, in total going to determine who wins this game.
I think the other thing that's going to be really important is field positioning based on the special teams. Like, which returner can set you up in a better spot to where maybe it's at the 35-yard line, you bring it out to the 50. Well, now that gives you opportunities to kind of just get in the field goal range and maybe make a dink and dunk play, and there you go. You're on the board with 3 points. That's going to be really important. I think the pass rush in this game is going to be really important on both sides. Because, again, Dylan Stewart, what you also got in Brian Thomas Jr., you want to throw in some other names to start on the outside. You got Devontae Miles. I mean, you can go with Nick Barrett. A lot of guys have some sacks for this team. For Clemson, they got first talent all across the defensive line. That's just a fact, guys. Whether or not you want to believe it, you got TJ. I mean, you got a Will Help. You got Sammy Brown. You got TJ Parker. You got Peter Woods. You got Stephalian Green. You got Jaheim Lawson. I mean, you got dudes that can get after quarterbacks. So can they win on 3rd down and take you out of field goal position? That's another thing that I think is going to be really important. Again, you guys both know what the standard is of this game. You guys both know what the expectation is of this game. It doesn't matter what the records say. It doesn't matter if one's going bowling or not. You want to be able to brag for the next 365 days while that palm tree trophy is sitting in the office of one of the head coaches. We own you, little bro, or we own you, big bro. Hey, little brother got big over the summer and he came in here to kick your ass. Now he's going out and he's telling everybody, oh, that's my little brother. You just got to kind of sit there and take it.
Bear, I do want to mention, when it comes to the bigger picture here, this game it's certainly in a vacuum. It's massive. Bragging rights, like Carolina Clemson needs no hype, like many of these rivalry games. But this is significant because here's the deal. Rivalry supremacy is a very, very big deal in every rivalry, but especially this one. South Carolina wins this one. You've won 3 of the last 4 against your arch rival in Clemson. You know what? South Carolina right now may not be where they want to be from a program standpoint, but I tell you this, beating Clemson gets you a lot of grace in that state. And I don't know that people really realize it. Like, it builds a lot of goodwill when you beat Clemson more often than you lose to them, because let's just face it, Bear, you look over the past history, you look at the history of the rivalry, there haven't been many South Carolina coaches that have had a winning record against the Tigers. There haven't been many South Carolina coaches that have won with any level of consistency against Clemson. The last to do so, of course, being Steve Spurrier, who had the 5-game win streak over Clemson. You win this one, and I don't care what Clemson is as a program. They've fallen off, sure, but who gives a damn? Like, it is what it is. You taking advantage of it, because even throughout the course of the history of this rivalry, even when Clemson was down, it was for whatever reason South Carolina still struggled to beat them. You win this one. You've won 3 of your last 4. You're not going to a bowl game either way, but man, you talk about a much, much better taste in your mouth going into 2026. If you can at least hang your hat on the fact of, hey, we've got the bragging rights in the state. People that aren't familiar with this rivalry and those watching are familiar with it, so they understand what I'm speaking on. Just the impact of winning this game cannot be overstated. Like I mentioned, even in the midst of a horrific season where you fell short of essentially every goal, and I know it sounds corny and it sounds cheesy, but you can still be state champions. You can at least win something of significance. And on the other side of Clemson, huge for them too, Bear. You don't want to let the Gamecocks have a 3-1 edge on you in the last 4 matchups. Also, the other thing I'll point to really quickly, the road team, for whatever reason in the history of this rivalry, has had a ton of success. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is. I don't know if it's like a mental thing, but you look back at the last 3 meetings, the road team has won each of them. South Carolina winning in Death Valley both times, Clemson winning in Columbia in 23. Heck, they also won in Williams-Brice Stadium in 2021. See, now I'm going back here. And, of course, before that, that was the 7-game win streak by Clemson. They won all those. So, yeah, going back to the start of the Beamer era, the road team has won this game, I believe, every single time, if I do recall correctly. So, yeah, just a big game for rivalry supremacy and the way this thing sways between Carolina and Clemson.
And it's just a feather in the cap for a guy like Shane Beamer, who needs as much good positivity going into the offseason. Let's just be real. And also for Dabo, if we're being completely honest here. Because as much as we could say that, yeah, you're bowl eligible, people had you winning the national championship. And that dream was over before the month of September ended.
Bear, that being said, let's lock in some picks. Let's lock in some predictions. The Palmetto Bowl is officially upon us. It's Carolina. It's Clemson. Need I say more? Would you like the honors? You want me to start first?
I will go first. This is a very easy one for me. I think that Clemson is a team that has everything to play for because they want a better bowl status. I think South Carolina is a team that has nothing to play for, which means screw it. Let's go full sicko mode. Let's uncork everything. Let's unload the clip into our rival. Let's pull a Dylan Stewart pulling out the machine gun last year and do it at Clemson for 4 straight quarters. That's what we got to do in this game. What does this come down to for me? The quarterbacks. Neither one has been very impressive this year, in my opinion, at a consistent basis. There's been moments with the Sellers. There's been moments with Klubnik. There's been a lot more negative moments for both. And there's been a lot of questions when it comes to the play designs and the play calling of South Carolina. That makes me think that Clemson is going to get the job done. That's what I think. But I picked Lenore Sellers to be my Heisman Trophy winner. So you're going to at least make me proud and say that you won the Palmetto Bowl, potentially for the last time in a Carolina uniform, because we don't know what your status is. College football transfer portal, the NFL draft. You can say you're 2-0 as a starter in the Palmetto Bowl. You connect with your brother, Jaden Sellers, in the final 2 minutes to guarantee a win. Keep the Seller tradition alive in Columbia for next season. And lo and behold, Shane Beamer, you end the year with a little bit of good graces, potentially flipping a player or two also. That's at Clemson. They go to South Carolina. Now it feels like things are trending in the right direction going into the offseason. I still think you go make an outside hire at offensive coordinator. You make a couple personnel switches for the staff long term. You better equip yourself to go on a run in 2026. But 2026 already has begun because if you won the Palmetto Bowl and you started off 1-0 against your rival. Final score, 27-24. Give me the War Chickens at home at Willie B, ending the year on a high note. If only it could have been better for the start of the season.
Bear, this one kind of takes me back to the rivalry games I witnessed in like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, even where, before Clemson was Clemson under Dabo, and both Carolina and Clemson would meet in this game, and they're both 5-6 or whatever, and they're both fighting for bowl eligibility. This kind of is what this is. Because like you said, I mean, yeah, Clemson's go to a bowl game, but they're 6-5. They're not playing for anything really significant either. Just otherwise, whether they're going to go to, I don't know, Charlotte or whatever the other ACC bowl destination is. South Carolina, obviously, they can get to 5-7. They won't be bowling. They won't be going into the postseason. You do bring up a good point, by the way. Maybe Lenoris Sellers' last game at Williams-Brice Stadium. That's wild to think about. We'll see what the offseason has in store. That being said, I have been really disappointed with Lenoris Sellers this year. I have. It's – you can blame the offensive line. They've obviously been abysmal, the lack of running game. But, like, a lot of those sacks have come from him. Just taking unnecessary sacks. Like, taking sacks he doesn't have to take. He's going to have to be better in this game and revert back to the Lenoris Sellers that we know, and the dominant, impossible to stop. Maybe he turns back into that guy we saw last year in this game. On the other side for Clemson, you're right. I mean, it comes down to Cade Klubnik. He's been downright not good at times. But I do agree that the momentum that Clemson has caught late is really, really interesting. They seem to be clicking at the right time. At least it found their stride to some point. Obviously, much better than they were early in the season. I mentioned it earlier, and I'll say it again. For whatever reason, I don't know why. I don't know if it's a mental thing or what the case is. The road team in this series has had a lot of success, and I don't get it. I don't know why. I think this is a game down to the wire. I'm going to go the opposite of you, though. I think it's Clemson late in this game. Clemson has broken South Carolina's hearts in Columbia a lot. A lot. Again, I don't know exactly why. I don't know, what it is about it. But we're kind of back to that mode where it's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. These rivals trading blows every year, and the road team seems to have the upper hand. And I think the trend continues. I think Clemson walks into Williams-Brice Stadium. I think they get a 24-20 win over South Carolina. An incredibly frustrating season ends with a really frustrating loss. The Tigers beat the Gamecocks, and they are Palmetto Bowl champions yet again. Like I said, a place that they're very comfortable in playing in Williams-Brice Stadium, so much so that South Carolina has 44 total wins in this series. Clemson has more than 44 wins in Columbia alone. They have more wins in Columbia alone than total wins South Carolina has in the series. Crazy stat, but true. But either way, 24-20 in the latest edition. I think Clemson gets the win.
The beauty about this one, Chris, is that you took Clemson, I took South Carolina, which means one of us is going to be right. And it doesn't mean that's because we took the same side. That means the other side is winning this game.
Indeed. It's going to be full of dramatics. There's no doubt of that. Again, South Carolina, Clemson, guys. I'm going Clemson. Bears going South Carolina. Would love to hear your thoughts, your predictions. Who do you think comes out on top on Saturday? Gamecocks or Tigers? Guys, that's going to do all for us. We appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in before we get out of here. Make sure you check out our friends over at FanDuel because, as always, we are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Guys, it's NBA tip-off week. FanDuel is your home for live betting. Even if you miss the start of the game or you're going to ride the hot hand, FanDuel's got live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot add a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join because FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. Play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Guys, once again, that's going to do all for us. We appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. As always, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Check us out where we get your podcasts, all across your social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For Cole the Bear Thompson, I'm Chris Phillips. We're signing off. Appreciate you all tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you all on the other side.